Could all the attendees confirm if you can hear me and see me? You can type a quick yes in the chat box. That'll be very helpful. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Vibha. Thank you for confirming. Also, if in front of your names, you can write parent or student. So it's very helpful for me to know that how many parents are coming in because I wanted to ideally address this conversation for parents. This would be great for me to check if we have some parents who are joining the conversation today. Okay, thank you so much for joining in. We're just going to wait for a couple of minutes. We're just going to allow a few other people to join in as well. I believe I'll either way start. I think others can keep joining in. I don't want to make people wait who are here. Very good evening. Thank you for joining this webinar by Mindler and Edgesis. I'm Abhishek. I am a career coach in Mindler. I lead strategy for the Mindler team as well. And the reason I'm here today is because in the last couple of months, we've received a lot of queries for a lot of students applying abroad. And one of the major factors that parents are worried about, and I keep often talking to them, visiting schools and generally when we take sessions as well, is how do we deal with the costs that come with studying abroad as well. Of course, it's not a cheap affair. We need to shell out a lot of money and it's a big investment and a big consideration as well. So I'm just trying to cover a little bit more about the study abroad costs, what parents need to be aware of, because every single year after the admissions are done and students have to leave, parents come up with certain things that they didn't know about, be it housing, living, insurance, and additional hidden costs as we call them. So I want to try and give you an overview. And if you have any questions, post that. I'll be very happy to answer. This is not going to be a very extended session, but this was a query we were getting across. So we thought we'll compile this into a webinar and share with you. Done. Very quickly jumping into this. I know if you're especially parents who have kids who are looking at studying abroad, and especially in class 12, this is rather more important for you because you don't have too much time to plan. I'm assuming you're already certain about the kind of financing that's required. First and foremost thing that I would want parents to mention, and if you're here, you can mention the chat box. Can you tell me what countries are your respective wards applying to? US, UK, Canada, Singapore, any other European country? Could you quickly mention in the chat box? And if the students here, you can tell me what countries are you applying to as well. I hope everybody is able to mention the chat box. Wonderful. Europe, thank you, Myra. Thank you for mentioning that. US, Italy. Okay, so all over the place. No, wonderful. Makes it better for me. Now, every country has a lot of data available. My request is that when you are looking at studying abroad, first and foremost thing you have to do is go to a university website, take an estimate of the cost given. Today, the biggest advantage is you have platforms like Mindler where you can go and ask information. You can reach out to us. We can give you data. Otherwise, we have a number of blogs and vlogs which are already there, which give you an estimate about the cost. And if you can't find data about a particular university, the university website is the best place to be. So let's say I'm a student in class 12. My parents want to plan my financing and budget. I can easily go and see what is the current funds available. What is the current fees? What is the structure? And how many years is the degree? If the fees is 30 lakhs, which is mentioned on the website, first go and check, is it the tuition fees? Does it include the entire cost? Because most cases, university websites only will mention a tuition fees. They will not mention about the living cost. That is always hidden and additional. I'll give you an example. Last year, I was working with this kid from Rajasthan where she was planning to apply to Canada and parent had done everything. They had a budget of 1.25 CR, but that was only the tuition cost. At the time of going, they realized the living, insurance, travel, everything was different. And they almost ended up paying or realizing the budget is 2 CR, which is way above what they wanted to afford. And this became a major hassle for them to figure out a loan and everything at the last minute. So try and understand there are a lot of data available, but you have to research as well. That is why it's so important when we're working with students, we try and start this very early so parents can plan and budget. In fact, some of my students that I'm working with from 9th and 10th, parents have already taken an estimate of the cost that they need to take care of. And in case you don't get scholarships, what do you do and how do you manage that, right? So very, very crucial. Now, there's certain misconceptions available about study abroad costs, and I want to cover the three most important ones which I keep hearing and reading about. The first assumption is study abroad is only for the wealthy. Now, this is not true. You have scholarships and financial aid that can make it affordable. Now, scholarships can be available by any and every country. So please understand, but getting scholarships is not easy. But one thing that is for sure, if you have a very strong profile in academic merit, getting scholarship is not impossible for sure. And if you're looking at countries where scholarship is not a big thing, I might as well avoid those countries. For example, UK is not a very popular country when we look at scholarships and grants, but scholarships do exist. Very few students every single year end up getting aid from 10 to 50%, and some kids end up going on a full government scholarship, which comes with a certain contract. Financial aid is very different from scholarship. Financial aid, as the name recommends, has more to do with your family's financial backing, financial background, and status and responsibilities. It matters in a very different way. Just before joining the call, I was on a call with a student where student is looking at studying the US and the family cannot afford the education, but because the student is really bright, universities will be able to fund him if he's able to get it. So the idea is the number of ways depending on the country. So it's a complete myth that it's only for the wealthy. Second assumption, which I get to hear very often, is costs are the same everywhere. It's not true at all. You need to understand and get a sense of different locations. To give you a ballpark figure, the average cost of undergrad education without scholarships in the US today is anywhere between 2.75 to 3.5 CR. UK is anywhere between 1.5 to 2 CR. I'm not counting medicine here. Medicine can be up to 5 CR as well, right? The entire degree. When we look at Canada, again, 1.75 to 2.5 CR. Europe, depending on the country, if you're going to Germany on a fully funded scholarship, you can pay nothing. To anywhere in Ireland, I can pay 1.25 to 1.3 CR. So it's very varied across the European continent. Singapore, even the tuition is lower in comparison to the countries I mentioned. The cost of living in Singapore is pretty high, as much as paying the rent in London or New York. So I'm paying almost 30 to 40 lakhs a year very easily in Singapore, possibly more sometimes in some courses. Australia and New Zealand is also around 40 lakhs a year. So please understand the costs are very different and varied. It's not the same. With US being the most expensive and Europe, certain countries being the cheapest in comparison, it's very important for you to understand all of this. When we look at the third assumption, costs only look at tuition and fees. Now, I mentioned this earlier. I want to elaborate on that. Cost also includes your housing, your travel, your other expenses. See, I'm going to live a life as well. So me going out, eating food, any other travel expenses are also part of this. I also have to look at expenses for my healthcare. God forbid something goes wrong. You have to also ascertain for that. That is why when we look at visas and immigration, they ask you, do you have the minimum funds available for the particular year? Because if something goes wrong, how will you sustain in the country? And it's not easy at all. You have to be very prepared. I'm not here to scare you, but just to give you a reality check. Don't just look at the cost on book value. There's more to it, right? Okay, just to help you understand, I have broken this slide down into tuition and fees, what's included and what's not. When we want to look at what's included, tuition, course fees, access to campus facilities, student activities, and sometimes health insurance. A lot of universities, the good thing they've done is, particularly in UK and Europe, they make health insurance as part of the tuition fees. So they're ensuring that you're already paying for that while you're paying to the university. They take care of that. And that's the best way. But in a lot of cases, there's so many things that are not part of it. Your international student fees, visa application fees, health insurance in some cases, books, personal expenses, which I was mentioning. So already make a budget that what is going to be part of my tuition and what's not going to be part of it. So you start ascertaining the budget, what I might need to ascertain, gather, save to be able to live a good life in that particular country and sustain throughout. That's very, very important. Any question beyond this, I will take up later. So you can keep putting the chat box. That's all right. Now, when I look at certain expenses, I want to break it down. Housing and living expenses and budgeting for the unexpected. So there are four criteria. One is accommodation. Now, accommodation can be of different types. One can be on-campus housing if it's a university that has a campus living. That is great. Every university doesn't have campus housing, but they have collaboration with local partners, right? So universities have taken up or signed up partners where students usually end up living, which is great. Certain universities don't have housing at all, especially in city campuses like a New York University or any good school in London for that matter. Wherever I've studied, I've never lived in a campus accommodation because universities do not have the best ones. So you can live off campus as well. Take your apartments. There are homestays available, which are run by people, or you call them paying guests in India. A very similar approach, and sometimes they're really good. Especially in Europe, a lot of people who are living alone, they rent out apartments in floors, and these are really accommodating and wonderful, depending on how safe they are. Shared residences, if you're usually living with friends, you're living with different people, you can also look at this. Do compare the cost. It takes a lot of research, but this data is available on government websites, university websites, and it takes you one phone call and one email to get the data, right? And also, we're living in a time where there's so many websites available for making this very, very easy. Food, grocery shopping, dining out, special occasions. I always say this, food is always going to be a major cost for students studying abroad. Now, every country is not that affordable, especially living in countries and metropolitans like London, Paris, New York, Singapore. It's always going to be a costly affair. I can give you an idea. A monthly budget for a student living in London or New York can anywhere between a 40 to 50,000 to 1 lakh very easily per month if you want to have a decent living, and a place like a Manchester or a smaller suburb can cost you literally half of it on a given day. So you have to understand that every city has a different advantage as well. So everybody going to the UK is not paying the same amount of money. It can actually be a very big difference in your entire cost of education. So please be mindful of these things. I would recommend transportation. Public transport is really a very important factor. Now, one thing to remember, usually students have benefits and discounts when you're looking at studying abroad. With a lot of cases, like Luxembourg has free public transport completely. So if you're studying in certain parts in Europe, like Belgium, Luxembourg, the cost is negligible or none. However, bigger metropolitans have a higher cost. And of course, taking taxis, oh my God, it's actually impossible because they're so costly, right? Everybody cannot afford them, and I don't even recommend them. So public transport is the best way to get around. And you need to be able to factor that, okay, how does that work? Buses, tubes, stations, whatever that is, depending on the country. So you need to understand that there are layers to the cost that you're paying to be going abroad. Uh, Personal expenses, books, stationery, clothing, entertainment, healthcare. Now, very different factors. Everything has a different layer to it. I usually encourage kids to buy books and carry. Now, there's a catch here. If the books are so heavy and you're paying for extra luggage, don't do that. But please understand, certain books that you feel are cheaper here, you please buy them instead of going to the foreign country and paying to Amazon and getting those books, because certain times certain books are not available and you pay the taxes on them additionally. It's a nightmare. Stationery also, I think when I'm entering a country, things like stationery utensil, please take it with you. That's from personal experience as well. You do get discounts on clothing, entertainment, movies, shopping, and everything. But whatever you can take, I would say 70% of the things you're carrying should be carried from your home country, because that saves you a lot of cost and effort. I usually block sessions with students to help them factor in plan budgets, especially for UK, US. I have a great idea about those countries, and Paris as well. So if you need that support, I'm very happy to get on a call and consult you in making a budget. But please try and understand that these are things that keep coming up. And healthcare, of course, right? We always need to factor and keep a certain amount separately purely for healthcare and charges. It's not like India, insurance works, but they have certain restrictions. They have to be smart about things. Okay. Just addressing and adding to it, different kinds of scholarships and aid. Federal grants, these are more like need-based aid from the US government, particularly available in the States. So when you're looking at applying to the US, a lot of times, considering your family background, where you come from, you get certain grants from the government, which are really good. Private loans are the most popular way because today banks are also encouraging students to make the most out of it, because banks also need to earn interest and money. But the good part is today getting a loan without a collateral, right? You don't have to mortgage a property or anything, and you can still get a loan. The easy hack to remember is the better ranked your university globally is, the chances of you getting a bigger amount of loan for a longer duration at the best terms is higher. Right. So if you go to a very well-ranked university in any possible country, that's going to make your life much easier, will get you a better loan for a longer duration and at a better interest rate, if I can say so. University scholarships is the best way to go about things because they exist and we need to leverage them and make the most out of it. So I think you can give it a go. Start early. If you are in 10th or 11th, this is the best time to start. If I'm in 12th, if I was in your place, I'll reach out at the earliest and block a session to discuss more about it, because I can be more specific and not generic about the approach. External organizations, here the catch is a lot of international bodies and organizations support this. A lot of corporate support students. The problem here is I need to make sure that you go ahead and research, because some of the organizations are not credible. So I don't know. I need to make sure that I'm able to understand if these organizations are legit or not, are they recognized or not. Don't get into another scam by giving you data, etc. That's also a big worry when we look at, studying abroad. Hidden costs for the travel bit, I wanted to shed some light here as well. Airfare, round trip flights to and from abroad destination, there's a big challenge. I usually encourage students to plan your 2 or 3 trips already and book your flights at the earliest, because sometimes in peak festival season, you're paying multiples of what you would be paying. There can be a busy year, something is happening or the other. So you need to make sure. I know Diwali is like a family time, everybody's coming back, and the rates are at peak for popular sectors. So try and understand that you planned it once, rather get refundable tickets. They are available in a lot of websites, so you can do that. Visa application fees is always mentioned on the government website. So that doesn't really change as frequently. So this is one thing that's a little more fixed. Health insurance, get the best possible ones. I usually say the one you have in India, try and extend them. Hopefully, most of the ones we have in India have a coverage everywhere, right? Emergency funds, a safety net for any unforeseen circumstances. I can't emphasize on this enough. Managing your financial impact. This is more of a strategy that I usually recommend, and you can take a screenshot of this if you would like to. I have no problem. Start early, begin planning early, having a discussion with your parents, understanding that what is the cost you're looking at, how much can we afford as a family. Create a budget, prepare your expenses. I would say the best way to creating a budget is reach out to students studying at particular universities. Most of my students are already talking to some students that we have worked with, are living in the country, figuring out what is the daily expense, how does things look like, right? So that's the idea. Explore financing options. Any kind of option that are there on the table, try and keep them and compare which is the most suitable and viable one for you. That will make it a little more wholesome and viable for you. As parents, and if you're students, you need to be sitting on a table with your parents and talking to them and keeping this open. Try and understand from them that, okay, what is it that we're looking at spending? I don't want to create a financial burden for my family as well. And I think it's a very open conversation we need to have. And it doesn't happen too often in Southeast Asia, surprisingly, but it needs to happen. So students understand that, okay, what is going behind this? Is it even value for money, what we're doing, right? The last thing I want to just re-emphasize and cover, and then I can address your questions possibly, is you need to make an informed decision about studying abroad. You need to look at a number of factors: that where do I go, what can be done, what are the possibilities, how do I evaluate my options, how do I leverage budget, and in the long run, make the most out of it. What I want to do beyond this is quickly walk you through a couple of websites. How do you actually look at costs? That was my agenda. Let me help you with this. So let's say I want to go and study in the US or UK, University of Oxford, for example. It's a good website to look at. And I want to look at the fees. I'll help you with it. So let's say I go on the website, I look at the possibilities of studying there. There you go. Pravir, I hope the screen's visible, no? Wonderful.
Yes, it is.
Okay, done. Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, so when I look at fees and funding, there you go. Everything that you need to do is given here. Now, why I showed Oxford, they've given every single thing. Okay, there you go. They mention whatever you need. Your living costs, the course fees are separate. Now, look at how they've broken down the living costs. They've actually given you an idea how much does it take to live in Oxford on a given idea. What is the minimum and what is the upper range for the entire duration for a particular year? They mentioned 9 months because you're there in campus for 9 months and then you have holidays. Look at every single item: food, accommodation, personal items. So on average, you're paying anywhere between 1,500 to 2,000 pounds. That's a lot. So you're technically looking at 15 to 20 lakhs a year only on your living. That's 60 lakhs for 3-year degree, only on living, right? Understand the number of factors, right? Food, How are they calculated? They've given you a very good idea. Now, this data is not made up by me, it's provided by universities. If you're not looking at it, it's a problem. How do you budget? They have given you also managing your budget. This is a very fun page. This is a very interesting way how you can go about things and seek advice. It's literally available right now. Beyond this, course fees, if I have to look at, there you go. So Oxford is a little more expensive. So I'm just going to give you an idea. There you go. So if you're looking for undergraduate programs in the UK, they have mentioned fees available, data given here. So you can have a look. For example, if I'm looking at, okay, this is actually in the past. Let me get recent years. Uh, 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 there you go. In fact, they've given and shown you how has fees changed in the UK, because they're saying government has made us charge you more. We haven't. So let's say I'm looking at going this year. This is the average tuition you're paying. Now, this is a lot of money. On average, in Oxford, I'm paying anywhere around 30 to 40 lakhs, depending on the course, right? You see the cost of varied degrees. And by the way, PT is part-time, FT is full-time. So only look at full-time. This is a fairly expensive school. So 40 lakhs a year or 50 lakhs a year on tuition, that's 1.5 plus 60 lakhs. That's a lot of money we are paying, right? So undergrad, postgrad, different degrees. So try and understand what I'm trying to say. Very, very crucial. And the same thing goes for different countries. Uh, I can also look at, what do we say? Other kinds of courses that are available. There you go. So I can spend some time on different countries where I want to go and study on the websites and get a better sense of things, right? I can do the same thing for US. There you go. Now, US is one of the most expensive schools. They have a page called cost of attendance. I want to show you this. There you go. So if you're living on or off campus, look at the fees, what has to be paid on a given year. This is an yearly fees. That's almost $100,000. So I told you we are looking at 3.2 CR. I was in line, right? Estimated cost of attendance, what are we considering? How has it increased? Last year, it was $90,000, 95 this year, a complete rise of $5,000 right away. So in case you're not going through things, you look at this. They have broken it down. Transportation, personal costs, housing, every single thing is mentioned here, right? So please understand. Spend some time in breaking down, going through data. It's going to be very, very helpful. Great. I'm going to try and address and answer as many questions as I have here. One question I have, which is not related to financing, I think, is from, okay. Bhavya is asking, I want to pursue law after class 12, looking forward to CLAT in India, but I'm very interested in want to pursue the abroad just after 12. So would you please inform our university abroad? Okay, Bhavya, firstly, which country? Because every country in the world offers law. You have to be a little more specific with the question so I can answer you better. And if you need more instructions and detail, we are happy to block a session. We put down the number and email. You can reach out to us. We'll be very happy to help you with the same. And any other questions I can answer around cost and other factors, please do mention in the chat box. I'm happy to address the same. Do you think we can put the website link as well so they can reach out to us if they need anything from us? Pravar has actually added the form link as well. So, Ronak, a good question. You can actually do part-time work depending on the countries. Every country has a particular part-time hour duration that you can take up. So that's 100% possible for you. But what I'll recommend is it depends on the course rigor, okay? So for example, if a course is very intensive, just let me put down something in chat. Part-time. I'll just put down number of hours for certain countries that I mentioned that you can use. And you can please go and study and have a look at it. This will give you a better idea. In fact, if you want to make a note of this, you can copy paste this. Just give me 1 second. I have it for a few countries, so I'm just putting the chat box there. So if you're sending a message, please message on to everybody. Thank you so much, because otherwise you won't get to see, no? Oh, why is not getting copy pasted? Let me try and select it again. What is the lag here? Oh, I can't copy this. Yep. Can you please text on everyone to everybody? Otherwise, we will lose out. Let me just try and copy. Okay. Something is not working. Oh, okay. So US, I'm typing out. Give me 1 second. US is here. UK is here. There you go. I put down US, UK, Canada. I'm putting the other countries for you as well. Give me 1 second. This is the data I had collected from a website, so you can have a look at this then. Any other questions we can answer for you? Turkey, considering the global scenario right now and the disturbance there, I would avoid it. See, students, what I recommend you do is spend some time in understanding that where our career is growing as well, right? And please understand your safety is of the utmost important. That's why a lot of parents are rethinking you going to certain countries. So don't randomly pick up countries only on the cost basis. I've seen some agents recommending you random countries because they feel they're cheaper, but I have to make a career as well. Mr. Daljit, can you please repeat? I don't understand the question. Okay, I think I don't have too many questions to address. I'm just going to check Q&A as well. Forensic science at UCL, absolutely. It's a fabulous course, so please go ahead. No, Ruth, I'm not going to encourage Turkey. From a safety point of view, that's a very tricky country to be in. But that's depending on which school are you getting into, and if you speak German. If you speak German at a B2 level, I'll say Germany. Otherwise, in Imperial, UCL, King's College London, Edinburgh works very well. Maria, what's the question here? What about biomedical? No, going to Russia to travel, yes, not to study. Not a good idea right now. I'll avoid it. Okay, great. I think, Ritik, we've answered most questions. Yeah, I mean, I don't see too many. Anything that you have in mind, you can come up. I think there's another one. Forensic science, if you're looking at undergrad, it will be around 35 lakhs a year tuition. And if you're looking at masters, it'll be around 35 to 40 lakhs for your masters. And forensic science is great job opportunities in the finance sector, research as a whole. So very interesting to me. So I would not skip it for sure. And UCL is a great school. I should know. What in South Africa? Sure, Italy, great. So you have to be a little more specific about what you want to do, right? So very helpful. For what? Visas for what, sir? I mean, you can get a visa in any country. Visa for what? For studying? If you go to a boarding school, sure. They let you into a country for with a visa. You have to get a student visa then. Great. Any other questions if you have, you can feel free to reach out to the team. We'd be very happy to help you. Done, Rutu. You can reach out to us for fashion designing as well. Italy has some great schools like Podimora, Marangoni. These are one of the two of the best schools in Italy. So you can absolutely consider. Thank you so much for joining in. I really wish there were more people here so we could have answered more questions. But reach out to the team. We're very happy to help you with anything and everything you may require. Thank you so much.